On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Fred Ward, the rugged, versatile American actor best known for his roles in The Right Stuff, Tremors, and Escape from Alcatraz, passed away on May 8, 2022, at the age of 79. His death was from natural causes and occurred quietly, away from the glaring spotlight of the Hollywood stage, a fitting exit for a man who, despite a prolific career, often shunned celebrity in favor of grounded, character-driven work. Ward's death did not incite immediate headlines or grand public mourning, reflecting perhaps a shift in modern celebrity culture where visibility often trumps legacy. Yet, his passing sparked a wave of appreciation from film enthusiasts and peers who recognized him as a reliable presence in American cinema, someone who embodied blue-collar grit and emotional authenticity during an era increasingly obsessed with polish and perfection. Emerging in the late 1970s, Ward's roles often spoke to the anxieties and values of a changing America, post-Vietnam skepticism, Cold War tensions, and the struggles of everyday men caught in extraordinary circumstances. His characters, whether the stoic astronaut Gus Grissom or the snake-bitten handyman in Tremors, were rooted in realism, embodying perseverance and decency. His death prompted a re-examination of a career that had, in many ways, mirrored the quiet resilience of his generation. Men who did the work, didn't seek the limelight, and let actions speak louder than accolades. Unlike the political shock of Lincoln's assassination or the dramatic tragedy of Cleopatra's suicide, Ward's death was gentle and undramatic, a reminder that not all legacies are born in chaos. Sometimes they're built brick by brick, roll by roll. The aftermath of his death led to renewed viewings of his films and retrospectives that helped solidify his place among Hollywood's most underappreciated talents. Fred Ward's passing invites reflection on how we remember artists whose lives were not marked by scandal or spectacle, but by steady, meaningful contribution. In our relationship with mortality and fame, figures like Ward remind us that impact isn't always measured in headlines. It's found in the quiet admiration of those who were moved by their work. We immortalize them not with monuments, but with memory. A beloved film rewatched, a favorite scene quoted, a performance that lingers long after the credits roll. Jeanne Cooper, a revered American actress best known for her decades-long role as Katherine Chancellor on The Young and the Restless, passed away on May 8, 2013, at the age of 84 due to complications from a chronic illness. Her death marked the end of an era not only for daytime television, but for a generation of viewers who had followed her character's complex journey since 1973. Cooper's passing was natural, but it resonated powerfully in the realm of television, an industry constantly evolving yet deeply reliant on the familiar and enduring presence of its icons. Cooper's portrayal of Katherine Chancellor became a cultural touchstone, especially during the 1970s and 80s, when soap operas were not just entertainment, but an integral part of American domestic life. Her character grappled with themes of addiction, betrayal, wealth, and redemption, narratives that mirrored the societal shifts of her time, particularly around women's evolving roles and emotional depth in media. Cooper herself broke ground by portraying a facelift on screen, blending fiction with her real-life cosmetic surgery, a bold move in an era when aging, especially for women in Hollywood, was shrouded in stigma. The immediate aftermath of her death was a wave of heartfelt tributes from co-stars, fans, and industry professionals. The show honored her with a special tribute episode, allowing viewers to mourn both the actress and the character. Her absence left a visible void, emphasizing how profoundly she had shaped the narrative and emotional tone of the series. Her death amplified her legend, not through scandal or sudden tragedy, but through the quiet realization of how deeply she had been woven into the cultural fabric. Jeanne Cooper's legacy reflects the human yearning for continuity, emotional connection, and the strength of character over glamour. Her enduring presence on screen challenged ageism and celebrated longevity in an industry often preoccupied with youth. In death, as in life, she symbolized grace, resilience, and the power of authenticity. We commemorate figures like Cooper through continued viewership, retrospectives, and the living memory of her work. Her characters' trials and triumphs still resonate, immortalized in reruns and the memories of loyal fans. In honoring her, we reaffirm our collective desire to find meaning in perseverance and to recognize those whose art quietly but permanently shapes our lives. George Peppard, best known for his commanding roles in Breakfast at Tiffany's and The A-Team, died on May 8, 1994, from pneumonia, a complication related to lung cancer. His death at age 65 was the result of a long battle with smoking-related illness, a tragic but not uncommon fate among Hollywood stars of his era. The natural, though premature, circumstances of his passing reflected a broader cultural reckoning with the health consequences of a lifestyle glamorized during the mid-20th century. Peppard's death came at a time when public awareness of smoking-related health risks was gaining significant traction. Once considered a symbol of masculinity and sophistication, as epitomized in Peppard's portrayal of Paul Varjak opposite Audrey Hepburn, smoking began to be viewed with growing suspicion and regret. Peppard himself had reportedly quit smoking years before his death, yet the damage had been done. His end, therefore, stands as a stark reminder of the silent dangers embedded within the glamour of fame and the habits it normalized. The immediate consequences of Peppard's death were largely contained within the entertainment industry and among devoted fans. While not an active screen presence in his final years, his work had left a lasting imprint, especially his role as Colonel John Hannibal Smith on The A-Team, which had become an enduring symbol of 1980s pop culture. His death revived interest in the series, reminding audiences of his charisma, versatility, and classic Hollywood demeanor. Although Peppard did not ignite political or cultural revolutions, his death helped underscore a generational shift. It marked the fading of a particular era of screen heroes, stoic, suave, and often burdened with internal complexities masked by outward charm. Unlike tragic figures who die violently or young, Peppard's passing added nuance to his legacy. It was not the dramatic exit of a fallen icon, but the sobering close of a career that weathered Hollywood's shifting tides. We remember George Peppard not with statues or grand memorials, but through the roles he brought to life. His legacy endures on screen, where his performances are preserved as cultural snapshots. In this way, Peppard's death and life reminds us that mortality, though inevitable, does not diminish the power of memory. Through film, he remains immortal, a reflection of both an era's ideals and its inevitable decline. John Stuart Mill, the eminent British philosopher, political economist, and advocate for liberty, died on May 7, 1873, of natural causes, specifically a skin infection complicated by respiratory issues. He passed away in Avignon, France, where he had spent many of his later years, often in solitude, reflecting the contemplative nature of a life dedicated to moral philosophy and rational discourse. His death was quiet, devoid of the spectacle that surrounded the passing of political leaders or revolutionaries, yet it reverberated through intellectual circles across Europe and America. Mill's death came at a time of great political and social transition. The 19th century was witnessing the rapid spread of industrialization, the struggle for expanded suffrage, and the contest between utilitarian pragmatism and rising socialist ideals. As one of the foremost advocates for individual liberty, women's rights, and ethical utilitarianism, Mill's life and thought mirrored the liberal aspirations of the Victorian era, an era that grappled with balancing economic growth and personal freedoms. The immediate consequence of Mill's passing was a sense of loss among reformers and intellectuals. While he had retreated somewhat from public life after his term as a Member of Parliament, his writings continued to influence debates on liberty, representative government, and social justice. His works, especially on liberty and the subjection of women, became cornerstones for liberal democratic thought and feminist philosophy. Rather than diminishing, his reputation grew posthumously, with his ideas forming part of the bedrock of modern liberal ideology. Mill's death did not shift history in the dramatic fashion of a political assassination or martyrdom, but it did amplify his legend. In death, he was embraced more universally than he had been in life, especially as later generations found resonance in his progressive ideals. His belief in reasoned discourse and the moral imperative of freedom positioned him as a prophetic voice during periods of both liberal triumph and authoritarian backsliding. The way Mill is remembered reflects humanity's desire to elevate thinkers who challenged convention in pursuit of a more just society. Through continued academic engagement, reinterpretation in modern political philosophy, and institutional homage, from universities to public discourse, Mill has been immortalized. His quiet death contrasts with the enduring echo of his ideas, reminding us that the legacy of a life well-reasoned can outlast the clamor of history's louder exits. Elmer Rice, an influential American playwright and novelist, died of natural causes on May 8, 1967, at the age of 74. Known for his bold experimentation with form and unflinching critiques of social injustice, Rice's passing marked the end of a pivotal voice in 20th-century American theater. He succumbed to pneumonia in Southampton, England, during a time when his reputation, though established, had waned in popular memory, even as the themes he championed, individual rights, economic inequality, and resistance to authoritarianism, remained deeply relevant. Rice's life and death reflect the values and conflicts of an era deeply shaped by two world wars, the Great Depression and the Cold War's ideological battles. His best-known play, The Adding Machine, starkly critiqued the dehumanization wrought by modern industrial society, while Street Scene, which won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama, portrayed the raw, everyday struggles of urban Americans. His willingness to address social and political themes, including anti-fascism and civil liberties, placed him at odds with dominant conservative forces, particularly during the McCarthy era. Though his death did not produce a public spectacle, it quietly emphasized the cultural shifts in post-war America, where politically engaged art often gave way to more commercial entertainment. In this way, Rice's passing underscored the marginalization of intellectual dissent in a rapidly modernizing and media-driven culture. Yet, his legacy endured among playwrights and scholars who recognized his contributions to both dramatic form and progressive thought. The consequences of Rice's death were less about public mourning and more about a gradual reappraisal of his work. His plays, though less frequently produced today, continue to be studied for their innovative structure and social consciousness. His courage in confronting systemic injustice through the stage remains an instructive example for artists navigating political climates of their own. In remembering Elmer Rice, we reflect on how power can silence or elevate voices depending on the cultural moment. Mortality, in his case, became a threshold through which his works were re-evaluated and, in some circles, rediscovered. His influence is preserved through literature, academic study, and occasional revivals of his work, which serve as reminders that bold ideas often outlive the times that suppressed them. We immortalize Rice not with statues, but with continued dialogue about the power of art to challenge, provoke, and inspire. Roy Horn, one half of the legendary magic duo Siegfried and Roy, died on May 8, 2020, from complications related to COVID-19. His death, occurring in the early months of the global pandemic, underscored the sweeping vulnerability even the most seemingly untouchable figures faced in the face of a microscopic threat. Horn was 75, and his passing not only marked the loss of an iconic entertainer, but also served as a symbolic blow to an era of grand, larger-than-life Las Vegas showmanship. Roy Horn's death came nearly 2 decades after a life-altering event that had already reshaped his legacy. In 2003, during a live performance at the Mirage Hotel, Horn was critically injured when a white tiger named Madakor attacked him on stage. The incident effectively ended Siegfried and Roy's stage career, though it did not sever their cultural impact. Rather, the attack, and Roy's slow, painful recovery, cast a mythic aura over the duo, blending spectacle with survival and legend with fragility. Dying during the COVID-19 pandemic linked Horn's personal story with a global narrative of loss. It reflected a key challenge of the era: how even entertainers who once commanded stages and captivated millions were not immune to the randomness and reach of mortality. His death helped personalize a crisis that was otherwise statistical and abstract for many, particularly among fans who had long admired his daring and resilience. The immediate consequences of his passing were heartfelt tributes from fans, fellow magicians, and entertainers. His longtime partner, Siegfried Fischbacher, publicly mourned him, describing Horn as not only a performer, but a lifelong friend and fighter. The loss deepened the sense of finality for a generation of entertainment defined by illusion, wonder, and carefully choreographed danger. Roy Horn's legacy is immortalized not only through archival footage of his dazzling performances, but also through discussions about animal ethics, performance risk, and the human-animal bond. He occupies a space in cultural memory where show business meets myth, where tigers leaped at command and men walked the line between awe and peril. His death invites reflection on how we confront mortality when it strikes our idols, and how, through memory and media, we continue to believe in magic long after the curtain falls. William Schallert, a consummate character actor whose face graced American television screens for over 6 decades, passed away from natural causes on May 8, 2016, at the age of 93. His death marked the quiet conclusion of a long and prolific career, emblematic of a bygone era when actors served as the reliable backbone of Hollywood rather than its dazzling spotlight. Schallert's passing, while not a seismic cultural event, resonated deeply with generations who grew up watching him bring warmth, authority, and wit to countless roles. Best known for playing Patty Lane's father on The Patty Duke Show, Schallert embodied a certain mid-century archetype, the benevolent, slightly bewildered, but ultimately wise father figure. His characters mirrored the cultural values of their time, particularly the idealized American family of the 1950s and 60s, offering viewers a sense of reassurance and order in a rapidly changing world. His acting career extended far beyond sitcoms, with appearances in Star Trek, Gunsmoke, The Twilight Zone, and even In the Heat of the Night. He also served as president of the Screen Actors Guild from 1979 to 1981, championing fair treatment and healthcare rights for his peers, underscoring his quiet influence off-screen as well. Schallert's death occurred in an age dominated by rapid technological and cultural shifts, where traditional television actors were increasingly eclipsed by viral fame and streaming platforms. His passing reminded the public of a slower, more analog era of entertainment, a time when a familiar face on the weekly TV schedule was enough to build trust and longevity. His death did not shift the trajectory of history, but it served as a nostalgic moment for the many viewers who saw in him a reflection of decency, intellect, and charm. In death, Schallert has been remembered through retrospectives, reruns, and affectionate tributes from fans and colleagues. While he may not have commanded headlines in life, his enduring presence in the golden age of television made him a cornerstone of collective memory. Schallert's passing speaks to a broader truth, that cultural memory does not always hinge on dramatic endings. Sometimes it is the steady, consistent presence that leaves the deepest impression. Through reruns, interviews, and digital archives, we continue to honor such figures, those who shaped our everyday stories, and in doing so, quietly shaped us. Dirk Bogarde, one of Britain's most enigmatic and intellectual actors, died on May 8, 1999, at the age of 78, from a heart attack at his home in London. His death was the culmination of years of declining health, including a major stroke in 1996 that had left him partially paralyzed. Yet, even in his final years, Bogarde remained a formidable presence in British cultural life. His passing marked not just the end of a celebrated acting career, but the silencing of a distinctive voice in post-war European art and commentary. Bogarde's death from natural causes reflected the private, introspective life he led after leaving the film industry. Having once been the matinee idol of post-war British cinema, Bogarde had rejected the conventional fame trajectory. In the 1970s, he pivoted to more daring and artistically ambitious roles, most notably in Luchino Visconti's Death in Venice and Joseph Losey's The Servant. These films interrogated repression, identity, and decline, topics Bogarde explored not only on screen, but also in his later life as a novelist and memoirist. His death, serene but inevitable, mirrored the themes of decay and introspection he so often portrayed. The immediate consequence of his passing was a wave of tributes that focused not only on his acting, but also his literary voice and his role as a quiet pioneer for gay artists in a time when public acknowledgement was professionally dangerous. Though Bogarde never publicly came out, his long partnership with manager Anthony Forwood was an open secret. His dignified discretion resonated with a generation for whom silence was survival, and his legacy now includes a quiet form of advocacy. Bogarde's death did not shift geopolitical history, but it closed a chapter on a uniquely European sensibility: intelligent, melancholic, and elegant. Through re-releases of his films, the publication of his diaries, and retrospectives of his work, his influence continues. He is commemorated in art not through grand monuments, but through the continued relevance of the questions he raised about identity, loneliness, and the fading of beauty. In remembering Durk Bogard, we confront mortality not as a rupture, but as a reflective end to a life spent examining the shadows behind the mask. He reminds us that some legacies are not shouted, they echo quietly but enduringly across time.